Offshore wind energy was set to transform America's power grid, clean, renewable electricity harnessed from the ocean's powerful and persistent winds. For years, scientists, engineers, and policymakers envisioned a future where the vast, untapped energy off our coasts would help drive the nation's transition away from fossil fuels. Massive turbines rising from the waves off the coast promised to power millions of homes, dramatically cut carbon emissions, and create thousands of new green jobs in coastal communities. These spinning giants became icons of a cleaner, more sustainable future. The U.S. has vast offshore wind resources, especially along the Atlantic, making this both an environmental and economic opportunity. With steady winds and proximity to major cities, offshore wind could provide reliable energy where it's needed most. Billions in investment poured into the sector, revitalizing coastal towns and ports. New training programs prepared workers for high-tech jobs, and American companies began to compete on the global stage, aiming for leadership in clean energy innovation. Years of planning and construction signaled real progress, with turbine parts arriving at ports, specialized vessels ready to build at sea, and workers assembling the future piece by piece. These projects became symbols of hope and innovation, even as they faced challenges like supply chain disruptions, rising costs, and local opposition from some communities concerned about impacts on fishing or views. But just as the industry gained momentum, a wave of uncertainty hit. Economic headwinds, regulatory hurdles, and new questions about national security threatened to derail the nation's clean energy ambitions. Now the promise of offshore wind hangs in the balance, caught between the urgent need for green energy and growing concerns over security, costs, and community impacts. The future, once clear and full of hope, is suddenly clouded and uncertain, leaving a nation to wonder if the power of the sea can still deliver on its promise. On December 23, 2025, the U.S. offshore wind industry came to a sudden and unexpected halt, sending shockwaves through the renewable energy sector and beyond. The Department of the Interior issued a sweeping directive: all major offshore wind construction must stop immediately. This was not a suggestion or a request. It was a mandatory government-enforced pause that left no room for negotiation. The announcement stunned the energy world. Construction sites that had been buzzing with activity just hours before fell eerily silent, and thousands of workers suddenly found themselves in limbo, unsure of what would come next. The order was triggered by national security concerns raised by the Department of War, following the emergence of classified intelligence reports. The details remained secret, but the implications were immediate and far-reaching. The initial stop work order was set for 90 days, but officials warned that the pause could be extended indefinitely if the identified risks weren't fully addressed, leaving the industry in a state of deep uncertainty. The timing of the order couldn't have been worse. Many projects were at critical make-or-break stages, and every single day of delay meant mounting financial losses, missed deadlines, and growing anxiety among stakeholders. Years of investment, planning, and hard work were suddenly put on hold. Developers scrambled to understand the situation, searching for answers and guidance as uncertainty spread throughout the industry. Just months earlier, federal policy had been aggressively fast-tracking offshore wind projects, with government officials touting them as the future of American energy. This abrupt reversal left many feeling blindsided and frustrated. Confusion and mistrust now dominate boardrooms and construction sites alike, as developers and investors try to decipher the government's concerns and what it means for their future. The future of the U.S. offshore wind industry now hangs in the balance, dependent on resolving these urgent security issues and finding a way to restore confidence and momentum in this vital sector. The official reason for the stop work order: radar interference. Massive wind turbines can disrupt coastal radar, creating clutter that hides real threats and generates false alarms. The scale of these wind farms could create vast blind spots, making it harder to detect low-flying aircraft or missiles. False alarms could lead to costly military responses, or worse, real threats being ignored. While radar interference isn't new, the size of current projects has elevated it to a national security crisis. Classified reports detail the risks, and until a solution is found, the government won't allow construction to continue. The stakes: national defense versus clean energy progress. The industry must now prove it can solve these technical challenges or risk indefinite delays. The stop work order has abruptly frozen billions of dollars in assets, bringing progress to a standstill and halting 5 flagship offshore wind projects that were meant to power millions of homes. Coastal Virginia offshore wind, the largest of these, was already 2/3 complete. Sectorpid. Revolution Wind, which had reached 85% completion, now faces even more costly delays and logistical headaches as equipment sits unused. Sunrise Wind and Empire Wind 1, both major projects in the pipeline, are also on indefinite hold, dealing a significant blow to developers like Ørsted and Equinor, who have invested years of planning and billions in resources. Vineyard Wind 1, originally set to come online in 2026, now faces a disrupted timeline, mounting uncertainty, and the risk of missing critical clean energy targets. These projects were intended to be the backbone of America's offshore wind ambitions, representing a new era for renewable energy in the United States. Now, after years of effort, planning, and investment, all of that progress is at risk, with valuable assets and infrastructure sitting idle in the water, exposed to the elements. Developers face not just financial loss, but also the very real possibility that these projects may never be completed, leaving communities and workers in limbo. The suspension casts a long shadow over the entire U.S. clean energy agenda, raising questions about the nation's ability to meet its climate goals and transition to renewable power. The industry's momentum has stalled, and the path forward is more uncertain than ever, with supply chains disrupted and investor confidence shaken. The promise of offshore wind, once seen as a cornerstone of America's clean energy future, is now an open question, its fate hanging in the balance. The financial fallout is immediate and severe for developers like Ørsted, Dominion Energy, and Equinor. Idle construction vessels and crews cost millions each week, with losses estimated at up to $70 million per gigawatt per week. Delays threaten crucial tax credits and could drive up costs for materials and labor. If security concerns aren't resolved, there's a risk of losing seabed leases and billions in sunk investment. For some projects, costs may be passed to consumers. For others, losses hit company bottom lines and spook investors. These companies took huge risks to build a new industry, and now face the full brunt of a government decision. The financial pressure is mounting, with no clear end in sight. The stop work order ripples through the entire offshore wind ecosystem. Manufacturers, shipbuilders, and suppliers face a crisis of confidence, with investments and jobs at risk. Major turbine makers are somewhat protected by contract terms, but future orders are now uncertain. The American workforce, welders, engineers, mariners, faces layoffs and instability. The pause chills future investment as companies hesitate to build factories in a market that can be shut down overnight. Political and regulatory risks are now front and center, threatening the growth of a domestic offshore wind industry. The industry's future depends on restoring confidence and stability. Without it, the promise of thousands of new jobs and a robust supply chain may fade away. Developers are expected to challenge the stop work order in court, arguing government overreach and breach of contract. Billions were invested in good faith, based on years of government support and permitting. They'll seek injunctions to resume work, claiming irreparable harm and public interest in clean energy. But national security claims, especially with classified evidence, are tough to overcome in court. The government will argue defense trumps commercial interests, setting a high legal bar for developers. Much of the evidence is secret, making it hard for companies to mount a full defense. The legal battle will test the balance between commercial rights and executive power. The halt is as much political as it is legal. Supporters call it a necessary step for national security. Critics see it as a blow to climate action and clean energy jobs. Some accuse the government of using security as a pretext to slow green energy, while others say, previous administrations ignored real risks. Developers now fight on multiple fronts, in court, in Congress, and in public opinion. Their success may depend on building a powerful political coalition as much as legal arguments. The Biden administration faces a defining test, balancing security with its climate agenda. The outcome will shape America's energy future and the administration's legacy. Can a compromise be found, or will the impasse deepen? The next 90 days are critical. Government, military, and developers will scramble for technical fixes, software upgrades, turbine adjustments, or new monitoring systems. If a solution is found, projects may restart, but costly delays are already baked in. If not, the pause could drag on, intensifying legal battles and financial strain. Some developers may abandon projects, jeopardizing billions in investment and national clean energy targets. The episode exposes a deep conflict between energy development and national security. Future projects will face tougher scrutiny and longer timelines. Investor confidence is shaken, and the U.S. now looks riskier for offshore wind. The dream of harnessing ocean winds remains powerful, but must coexist with security needs. The coming months will decide if this is a temporary setback or a fatal blow to U.S. offshore wind.